The Reedy, Set, Grow podcast with Trish Reedy.
Welcome to Reedy, Set, Grow, the podcast that inspires you to grow into the person you're meant to be. I'm your host, Trish Reedy. I'm a local mortgage lender, and I love our Kansas City community and the people that are in it. I am so excited today to bring to you my friend and local blog celebrity, Audrey Kuether. Thank you so much for joining us via Zoom, Audrey.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your story. Tell us about how your blog started and how you've grown it.
Okay, yeah, so my husband Ted and I, we tend to buy houses that need a lot of love. And so my blog originally started because our former house, which I considered a fixer-upper at the time, which now that looking back, it was not a fixer-upper at all. We just had to do some cosmetic changes. There were no walls being knocked down. But I started the blog to just, share with my mom and my grandma and my dad, like, oh, here's what we're doing here. And then here's a little project I made with spray paint, that kind of stuff. I didn't really expect it to be much of anything. And I don't even know, I didn't post very often. It was just kind of a very slow start, but it was in 2012, back when it wasn't super saturated. So I just kind of did it as a creative outlet. And then I think it was the following year, we were finally able to update our kitchen. We didn't have a lot of money to work with. And it was just, the layout was fine. The cabinets were great. We just, everything was honey oak and dated. So I did everything I could because I love saving money and doing things on a budget, but I have like good style, I'd like to think, but not.
You do. I've been to your house. You do.
Thank you. So I kind of decided what I want it to look like. And Ted and I set out on a $500 kitchen remodel. It took us maybe 2 or 3 months. And, I love the way it turned out. I think I put a blog post out there, and then maybe 2 months later, Better Homes and Gardens reached out to me and wanted to do a printed feature in one of their magazines. That was the very beginning. I had the best luck then, So that was kind of my first start in thinking, wow, this could actually be a little bit more than just a little, thing to show my mom and dad. So I kind of just grew from there. And then, different publications and digital and print have picked up all the things I do. It's not all DIY and home renovation. I'm also a graphic designer. So I do a ton of free calendars, printables, craft projects with my daughter that I do on TV segments. So kind of all just turned into one big umbrella project that I'm doing, kind of all in the creative realm.
Yeah. So you never really dreamed of being an Instagram or an influencer or a blogger?
No, not at all. No, it just kind of all happened. And, then Instagram, I don't remember when Instagram started, but I definitely wasn't on it at the very beginning. And I remember my first photo was, I didn't even know what I was doing. And then I didn't really start doing Instagram seriously, maybe for the last, I would say 5 years or so. And, that all that kind of stuff. Because now a lot of the, brand partnerships and stuff really focus heavily on Instagram. They want blog posts too, but some of them are just social only. So definitely got to build up that Instagram, I found. So
Yeah, man. So tell me about, so maybe not the house projects, but some of these other things that you've done and have featured. What are some of your favorites?
I mean, it's kind of a huge range of things. Some of them are just some of the free printable, let's say printable art prints or some digital wallpapers I've done that have been featured on some of my favorite blogs. Other ones have been something as different as a Super Bowl, DIY Super Bowl decor. I did some TV segments on that, and I also thought, I'll just put it in a blog post, and it's been shared by quite a few, Good Housekeeping, Country Living, Women's Day, all those top publications. And I actually didn't even know, because some of them reach out and tell you ahead of time, hey, we're going to feature you, ask your permission. Others just feature you and, send a link to your blog. But if you're not checking, if you're not seeing that in your analytics, you're not even going to know you're featured usually unless you're tagged on social media. So I honestly, I find random features from even 2 years ago that I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know about this. So those have been kind of my favorite when I just stumble on them one day, and I have it gives me a little extra pep to my step. And sometimes it happens when I'm having a bad day. So that kind of stuff, definitely gives me a little bit of a smile that day.
Yeah. So being creative, you probably find inspiration in a lot of different places. Tell me a little bit about where you pull from.
It's pretty much anywhere. So I do have a full-time job as an art director at a software company. So I'm responsible for, web design, email, print, digital, everything, office design. So I do a little bit of everything. So that's more in the software world. It's a little different than what I'm doing for my blog.
Absolutely.
So I like that I'm able to kind of do design for everything. So I kind of pull inspiration out of this as kind of a wide range of things to say. I kind of pull it from everywhere, but definitely, you know, when needed, you know, the Pinterest, other bloggers that I admire, or even, you know, magazines. I still get print magazines, and I love looking through, you know, some of their ideas each month just to kind of inspire me. And sometimes I'll have an idea kind of based off of something somebody else did. You know, give them credit that, you know, love this idea. Here's what I did with that, you know, that kind of thing. That also helps build kind of a blogger community, because people love to see, like, I love it when I do a project and then someone's like, oh, I got this idea from Audrey, but here's how I, you know, did my spin on it.
Right.
So that kind of thing has been really great. So I just always creative. I feel like some days I have a slump or two, but I'm just kind of always thinking about my next project.
Right. Well, and one of the things that I think is really cool and interesting, and to me is different, is how you integrate your daughter into some of these projects. And I mean, she's so adorable. And I mean, you're mini me for sure, right? So, you know, tell me maybe about like one of her birthday parties that you planned, or some holiday decorations that you guys do that she really gets into also.
Yeah, she definitely is my little sidekick. I first started off with how she got started with me. I mean, I would put her in some blog posts. I would use her hands or take pictures of her, because she would help me do like a craft project, for instance. And I would always try to find projects that a kid could do. You know, you're not going to have like any burns or cuts or anything like that. So she would kind of start going on just blog posts. And then I would do a monthly TV segment every once a month for 6 years on a local CBS station. And she would always go with me, especially it was in the summer, you know, and then I would take her to school after. And she'd sit in the audience all quiet and stuff, but then they started asking her to join in. So she would do the projects with me leading up to the TV segment. And then on the TV segment, we do it, you know, live on air. And she kind of knew how to answer all the questions on what the steps are, because she had actually done the project most of the time. And, you know, she was very shy most of the time. People kind of just really fell in love with her. I think the producers liked her better than me. So, you know, they'd always want her to come along. So she's done some of the local TV stations with me. And then we do a national TV DIY episode each month on Home Talk TV. And she joins me about 50% of the time, depending on what the project is. So we kind of do a little bit of everything together. But yeah, I also, whenever it's her birthday or something, even this year with us not even be able to have a gathering, I did it big, you know, and I surprised her with that one. But I do a lot of decorating and holiday, you know, that kind of stuff. I get into that kind of stuff. So
what was the theme for her birthday this year?
It was kind of like, well, I got this big 7, light up 7 from my friends Alpha Lit KC. So it's those giant, you know, marquee letters and a heart. And so then I had, we always kind of tend to do flamingos. I feel like maybe next year we should branch out. But then I took, you know, palm leaves. I made a huge balloon arch, you know, tons of different colors of balloons. I stuck in palm leaves, and I kind of just did this cascading thing over the 7. So, and then we had lighting, of course, and it was at my parents' house. It was just like 5 of us there, and we made a little party out of it. And yeah, she loved it. So tried to make it as special as we could. We're
going to need you to come over to our house for my girls' birthdays, because they would die with something like that.
If I remember correctly, I want to say you had a pretend unicorn at your last one. That was
we did, but that was completely not done by me. I don't have any of the creative juices that you do. I'm jealous for sure. Man. So I think a lot of people have maybe some aspirations to become an influencer. And I think there's that threshold at 10,000, right, on Instagram that you have reached, which is so cool. It's a big accomplishment. What sort of advice would you give to somebody that's interested in getting into that world?
Yeah, it definitely, I'll be honest, it sounds much more fun and fancy than it is. You know, it is hard work, especially when you're like me and you have a full-time job, you have blog sponsorships, you have, you know, a calendar full of things you have to do. Especially for me, I have to be very wise with my time, because I'm doing a little bit of everything all the time. Some of them are easier, you know, if you want to start where you just do some Instagram ones or just social only. But if you have a blog, you know, it's nice to be able to leverage yourself to try and ask for more money, because you are giving them a backlink to their blog, which, you know, helps with SEO and all that kind of, it doesn't just stick around for a day. No, people don't usually scroll back and look at past posts unless they're looking for something specifically.
Right.
So it is actually, there's a lot more work that goes into it. And depending on the brand you work with, there are a lot of hoops you have to jump through, even just to hit publish on an Instagram post. You have to run it through different like middlemen sometimes, and you have to type in all your copy. You have to do exactly the hashtags they say, and they have to send it to people for approval. So it could take, you know, a week to get a caption approved for Instagram. So it's kind of a lot. And then sometimes you'll have a brand that's like, oh, we trust you, you know, just use this hashtag and do what you want. And those are a lot less stressful. Like right now I have some coming up that are pretty laid back, but then there's one that, I'm going to have a ton of things I have to do and make sure, you check all the boxes for.
Yeah.
So it definitely is a lot more work than people think. I know a lot of people just think you show up in front of a camera that maybe your
Let's
husband
take some
or daughter
pictures.
or somebody
Yeah.
taking pictures. And nowadays it's like, I have to get ready. I'm working from home.
Right.
My hair.
Do you want me to put on pants today? I mean,
I know. I have to actually put on real clothes. Like, at least in Zoom, it's like, I have my pajama pants.
Right.
Yeah. But it is definitely something, it's fun. And especially once you do quite a few of them, you get the swing of it and you kind of work with every type of brand. But it's definitely something that I do recommend everyone trying, but it's not something that everyone does and succeeds at.
Yeah. Well, obviously you're good at it. When I helped you with your mortgage refinance, you shared your experience, and I think I got 5 of your followers to work with me. I mean, that's awesome. Amazing. That's a great return on investment.
Yes. People really, really were, because they loved hearing about like the rate difference and how much money I was saving. And I still have people to this day asking, okay, who was that you did? Yeah. So you're probably going to get some more trickle down. But yeah, I just try to be as real and honest as I can. And I sometimes you feel like people are just selling you something all the time. And do you even really like this product, or are you just getting paid for it? So I really try to only work with brands and people and things that I truly love and definitely believe use. So, I just don't want people to think I'm just always out there shoving, things down people. So, but I don't do a ton, with my full-time job, I might have maybe a handful a month, something around that. And sometimes it's 10 or 12 a month. And those are my stressful months. But, yeah.
Now, you don't always get paid in money. Sometimes you get a little trade, right? What's the most interesting thing you think you've gotten in trade?
I do like the ones where you get money and product, but one of my favorite ones was in our new house, our real fixer-upper, we gutted bathrooms and stuff. And I was like, I do not want to buy a deep soaker tub, sinks and all that. So I just reached out to the brands I wanted to use, Kohler and Moen in a local showroom, and they gave them to me. Most of it was either free, some of it was a very steep discount. So that stuff like that really saves. So that was kind of one of my more interesting ones. And another one I actually did just today. I was at a doctor's appointment last Friday, and my wedding ring and my 2 new anniversary bands just came off my finger. I didn't know it, and it's still gone. I went back to the hospital, dug through trash cans with gloves. Yeah, and I was like, dang it! I did have some of it insured, not my new bands, but I was like, what can I do? I'll have my insurance money, but I want to get a ring that I love, even though I feel terrible that I just lost this one. And so I just reached out to a company down the street and asked if they'd be willing to work with me on a partnership. And I went there, and called them today, and we did like a little Zoom meeting, and we looked at rings, and I'll be going back sometime soon to go maybe purchase it. But yeah, so that kind of stuff, just sometimes you just have to ask. Most of the time people come to me. I'm not seeking out any extra work a lot of the time, to be honest.
You got a little bit going on in your life.
Yeah. So.
And add to that, in a pandemic, homeschooling your daughter.
Yes.
Virtual schooling.
I think there's a teacher who's doing the teaching, but I'm helping, get her where she needs to be on Zoom and on Canvas. And I have a lot going on, and some days are more stressful than others. I'll be honest.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your time management. How do you do it all?
Honestly, I don't really have a super big method. I have to write everything down. I have my paper to-do list. Then I have to put reminders in my phone. I have to put alarms. I have alarms going off all the time. Some of them are just to get my daughter into a class at a certain time. Other times it's, okay, don't forget to respond to this person for this, pictures and a caption you owe them. So I really just have to set a ton of reminders and use old-fashioned paper. And that's kind of been working for me. I do sometimes schedule social posts ahead of time. I used to be better at it and have content planned a month out. Now I'm just kind of treading water, but we have our times where it's a little harder, and the other times I feel like I've got it together. So
yeah, man,
it just ebbs and flows.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely been an interesting time for all of us, and it seems like you're keeping it together pretty darn well.
I'm trying. Definitely trying.
Yeah. Well, I would like to wrap up with 5 rapid fire questions. So you can continue to inspire us. Audrey, what's your favorite quote?
I would have to say it's work hard and be nice to people. I feel like that's kind of what I try to go by.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so it's the kind of day that you're not necessarily ready to get up and out of bed, but you got a big day coming up. You're going to crank up the music. What's that song you're using to get pumped up for the day?
I wouldn't say it's a particular song, but I'm kind of an old school person who uses Pandora still. I know everybody else is on Spotify, but I have a station. It's like Glass Animals Radio, and it's like it's made just for me. All the songs that come on, they just get me going, and I just am in a better mood and I'm more motivated. And this time of year, I'll be honest, I know I sound like an old person, but I love listening to like Christmas with the Rat Pack. So sometimes if I'm in a really bad mood, I'll just play Christmas music. Like today I did, because I was just in a mood, and that really helped.
Sometimes we all need a little joy in our life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you do have your Christmas decorations up now.
Yes, and I'll be honest, I'm a little behind. People are like, how are you done? I'm like, I'm like a week behind.
Oh my
I normally
gosh.
do it on November 1st-ish, but with it Halloween, usually the inside and outside gets completely decorated on the same day. I'm just a crazy person. But it didn't work out with the weekend before. And so that's what I'm planning on doing this weekend. But yeah, I have a bunch of trees. And I will say, my excuse, vloggers tend to have to work quite a bit in advance if you want to like do projects and inspire people and share, share stuff for the holidays. So I do have to kind of work ahead, but I just like to. And honestly, if I'm stuck at home all the time, I want to have like pretty Christmas lights to look at.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. What is the one accomplishment that you're the most proud of?
Besides, what everyone would say, like, of course, my daughter, and my family, I'd say it's just that I built my blog. I didn't think too hard about it. I just went for it. I didn't overanalyze it, and I just did it, and I've stuck with it. There have been months where it's just like, I can't keep this up with my job and all these things. And sometimes that means you just step back and take a break for a month. Maybe I'm not doing my normal number of blog posts, but for me, it's just sticking with it. And I think the things that have come from it and the people I've met and brands I've worked with have, it's been amazing to see all that happen.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, it's easy to get burnt out when you're working so hard.
And I try to remember just to take a break and not quit. Some days I just want to quit, and I'm like, okay, I need to shut my computer, go watch a movie or something, and then come back tomorrow. And usually that fixes it.
Yeah. Yeah. What are 2 things on your bucket list that you have yet to check off?
Professionally, I've done quite a bit, with national brands. That used to be one of my things. I want to work with, I'd love to work with bigger brands, something like Target or something that would be like a dream brand to work with. I know that's setting my sights very high, but it'd be really fun to do a campaign with a larger brand like that, which, hopefully that happens sometime. But another thing is kind of not blog related, but my husband and I have always wanted to buy a small bit of land and eventually build a small, modern, efficient home. Maybe that's something we'd do after our daughter, goes to college. But we've always just wanted a little bit of land and just to have that modern home that we choose and build ourselves. So, or at least some of it ourselves.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Okay, last question. Fill in the blank. I am most inspired by.
I have to say my parents, just because they have set such a great example for me, my sister and brother. They have worked really hard their entire life. They didn't go to college for what they did. They worked from the ground up at their companies, ended up retiring there at the top of their company because they just worked really hard and, they stuck with it for years. And, they paid off all their houses. They saved really well. They helped us, with school some, they just always instilled hard work.
They worked hard and they were nice.
Yeah, exactly. See, that goes back to my quote.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Gosh, well, Audrey, thank you so much for Zooming with me today and sharing a little bit of your story and your blog. Can you share with everybody where they can find you online?
Yeah, you can find me online at ohsolovelyblog.com. And then on Instagram, I'm ohsolovely_blog. So you can find me in those places. And then off my blog, you can get links to all my social media from there if that's easier.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Audrey. And thank you, everyone, for listening and tuning in to Reedy, Set, Grow. I'm Trish Reedy. I'm your local mortgage lender. And thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
The Reedy, Set, Grow podcast with Trish Reedy.